Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure now to welcome our next distinguished guest from a country that is powering ahead in this industry, and as I know that you know, taking big strides into this industry and sector. We are delighted to have him here for the welcome address to show the future path that his country is taking. From the government of Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the member and executive secretary of the National Economic Council, Septian Hario Seto. Septian, thank you.
Very good morning. Thank you very much, first of all, for Cobalt Institute inviting me, I think for my second appearance, last year I think you invite me to New York, and Honorable Minister from DRC, very nice to see you. I think we have very good relationship between Indonesia and DRC, and we are more than happy to share our experience in developing this value-added domestic industry. So I think today I would like to speak more about the supply and demand perspective of this cobalt, especially coming out from Indonesia and how we see the supply in the near future. I think can you show me my slide? So I think this is actually the cobalt production coming out from Indonesia. As you may well aware, some of you, I think the cobalt production in Indonesia, I think increased in line with the MHP production, which is the mixed hydrate precipitate. So as we do the capacity expansion, we start the first commercial operation of the MHP in 2021, and now it's 2024. The cumulative annual growth rate is about 166%. And I think this expansion will continue in the next, I would say 2-3 years. I will show you the data later on. And that is actually our cobalt export, mainly to China. This is calculated using the assumption of about 0.15% cobalt content in our low-grade nickel ore, which is the limonite. In Indonesia, usually they extract the cobalt in our low-grade nickel ore if the cobalt content is between 0.1, above 0.1%. Most of it right now is between 0.15 until 0.18%. So actually this is the data. And I think not many people fully aware that actually currently is not economical for you to separate cobalt and nickel in our MHP. So as you can see, this is actually, if you see, this is actually the structure of the deposit from our nickel ore. So on the bottom, you see the saprolite, which is the higher grade nickel ore. It doesn't contain any cobalt. We use mostly this nickel ore, saprolite, for stainless steel production. So we do not extract cobalt here. But on the limonite, this is lower grade nickel content, usually between 1.1 until 1.3%. Actually, you have a quite significant amount of cobalt, which is between, I mentioned to you earlier, above 0.1%, you can extract the cobalt. So before 2021, we are not able to utilize this limonite nickel ore. So we just throw it away as an overburden. But since 2021, actually, this is we found that we can economically process this limonite. And with processing this limonite, actually this improved the overall deposit of the nickel ore in Indonesia. Because you want to get the saprolite, you get the bonus of the limonite, lower grade nickel ore, but on top of that, you get another bonus, which is cobalt. That's why I think the nickel competitiveness in Indonesia, I think is very strong. At the current nickel price, the MHP production in Indonesia still able to generate between 30 to 40% profit margin. So you can imagine at this current nickel price, 15,000, we are still able to generate huge profit. And that's partly also because of the cobalt credit that we have inside the MHP. So we using the high pressure acid leaching, we wash the limonite using the sulfuric acid. then we produce the MHP. So before we separate the MHP, we process further the MHP becoming the nickel sulfate and the cobalt sulfate. Yeah. But nowadays, we directly ship the MHP, and there is one factory in Indonesia that can process further the MHP going into the precursor without doing the crystallization of the nickel sulfate. Yeah. So that's changed the economics. Yeah. So if you ask me, can we control the cobalt supply in Indonesia? Yes, if we control the nickel supply. As long as we are increasing the MHP production in Indonesia, it's not possible to us to control this cobalt. So the cobalt production coming out from Indonesia will increase in line with the MHP production out of Indonesia. So I think this is very important knowledge here that I would like to share with all of you. So in Indonesia, we do not see cobalt as independent minerals. Yeah. The economics of cobalt is actually very tightly related with the nickel, especially for the MHP. Yeah. And I think this is something that I would like to also inform you. I think this is our lesson learned coming out from the nickel. Yeah. I remember back in 2022, when the nickel price is very high, you know what the CATL and BYD did to us is actually they developed the new technology for the LFP, which actually can improve the energy density, but keeping the price actually still very competitive. Yeah. So now, moving forward 3-4 years, since 2022, LFP is becoming very dominant price, very dominant cathode, for the lithium battery. Actually, this is a very important lesson learned for us, because you know when we try to set a mineral price too high, I think it's very dangerous because you know the downstream user will try to find an alternative for our minerals. Yeah. So this is happening on the nickel. Yeah. We are still able actually to compete on the NCM, but you know, if you compare maybe 4 years ago, I think the projection for the demand for the nickel is higher compared to today. So I think this is very dangerous if we want to set high price of this mineral, because you know the new technology will coming into the market basically to replace you. This is what we've seen in nickel. That's why I think for the government of Indonesia, we try to find out a good equilibrium between the interests of miners, the smelters, and the interests of the downstream user, which is actually the stainless steel player, the battery maker. Yeah. I think this is very important. We need to find what are the price range equilibrium for this commodity. In the case of the nickel, I think between 15,000 to 18,000, that would be our sweet spot. Yeah. The nickel smelter, the nickel miners in Indonesia still make a good profit, but at the same time, the downstream player still can enjoy also profit to make the battery or to make the stainless steel. We've learned in 2022 when the nickel price increased quite significant, beyond 24,000 US dollar per ton. Practically, there is no stainless steel maker in the world are able to make profit at that price of the nickel. Yeah. So I think this is also a very important lesson that I've seen in cobalt. Yeah. In cobalt, we've seen 2017, 2018 increased price, very significant of cobalt. We've seen there is a demand for EV, there is slow mine development in the RC regarding this cobalt. But what you'll see is in 2018-19, CATL and some of these South Korean battery maker introduced the NCM 811, which is practically reduce the cobalt content in the battery from 20% to actually 10%. And now we have the new technology 955, which is also started to be produced. The cobalt content is only 5%. So this is actually the result, because when they see the cobalt price is too high, it's practically not profitable anymore for them to produce the battery, then they need to find the alternative. I think in this case, it's actually lowering the cobalt content. Yeah. So to reduce the cost of the battery, They increase the nickel content, lowering the cobalt, so that they are able to maintain. And then this is actually, you see spike in 2022, but that's in our view mostly because of the supply chain from COVID, and there is also the dispute in DRC. Going back in 2021, reducing quite significant mainly because of this expansion from Indonesia cobalt production. And then, you see a spike price since March because of the DRC export ban, yeah. But I guess this is very important questions. When I see the data, actually, I think this is the questions, yeah. What are the end games from DRC cobalt export ban, yeah? Because when I see the data, this is actually the HPAL capacity expansion in Indonesia until 2027, yeah. So now we have about 55,000 by end of 2024, 55,000 cobalt production capacity from our HPAL, yeah. There is another 57,000 currently undergoing a construction, and the total capacity by end of 2027 in Indonesia is about 114,000. Yeah. Beyond 2027, I don't think there will be a massive capacity expansion, so this will be the very key. Yeah. So with 114, definitely even the additional supply coming out from Indonesia will not enough, yeah, to offset any supply disruption coming out from the DRC. Yeah. So I think this is the questions. If this export ban is still continue, in my view, I guess the price of cobalt will increase further in the short term. And depending how long actually DRC will maintain this measure, yeah, doing the export ban. But I guess the point number 3 is very important, yeah. If this cobalt price continue at a high level, yeah, I think we see in 2017 and 18 respond with a massive adoption of the NCM 811, so that you are compromising long-term demand of the cobalt with this one. So the new technology will find out a way to lower the cobalt content in a battery. Yeah. So we have seen this one, 10%, now we are going 5%. And I will tell you later, even in the mid-nickel battery, they are not increasing the cobalt content. Yeah. So I think this is very important questions, and that need to be solved. Yeah. And then point number four, I think in addition to that, we also see that the recent Trump tariff, and their view about the IRA, recent EU emission relaxation also may lower growth for BEV and the NCM demand. Yeah. So I think this will be some things that I think market need to understand. And this is related with point number 3 that I mentioned. When we are able to reduce the nickel price, yeah, ranging 15 to 18,000, yeah, now at the 15,000. Some of these South Korean, especially battery makers, find a way to actually creating this mid-nickel high voltage NCM batteries. Yeah. So they lower the nickel content from 80% to 60%. They increase the manganese, but they keep the cobalt. So they are not actually increasing the cobalt content, even though that last year the cobalt price is quite low. Yeah. So then I think this is a question. Yeah. We have been getting a lot of advice as well, because I think Indonesian position on nickel is maybe very similar with DRC position on cobalt, that as a biggest producer of these minerals, we have to be careful and we have to be responsible that ensuring the supply of these minerals is enough in the market. Yeah. Otherwise, all these buyers will see that you are not responsible, you are not reliable, then they will find a way to actually new technology to replace your minerals. And I think this has to be very careful. That's why for the government of Indonesia, in nickel policy, we are really careful in adjusting our policy. Yeah. Yes, we do export ban on raw materials, on the nickel ore, but on the processed nickel, I think it's impossible for us to do this export ban, asking for further processing, because actually practically we are about 60 to 65% of the supply of the nickel now. So I think this is my speech. I'm really sorry if I say something that not correctly appropriate, but this is actually my view on the market, yeah, and how we see this cobalt in the near future. For Indonesia, to be honest, it's closely related with nickel, yeah. As long as we are increasing our nickel production, then there is no way that we can stop the supply of the cobalt, yeah. So this is going hand in hand. So I will stop there. More than happy if you want to discuss. Thank you so much.